If you're moving to Nashville, I know the first thing you want to know is, when is our market, when is the Nashville market going to drop? When is housing going to get less expensive? When are the interest rates going to drop? When is it that it's going to be more affordable? How can I find some affordable housing? Where do I go? All of those questions are great questions. And I don't have a crystal ball, but what I do know is the facts. Today, I'm going to share some real facts with you about what's going on in our housing market. I'm going to look at some of the things that the Wall Street Journal has said, even in today's paper, and see how it stacks up. As you know, I'm sure you've heard, all housing is very specific to the location. And although we live in a world where everything flows with each other and nobody lives in a bubble, Nashville is unique in many ways. I'm not even going to tell you about those things. I've got lots of videos for you to take a look at as far as what makes Nashville so special and different and maybe a little more financially secure than other places. Today, we're going to talk the facts and the stats. And I hope I'll make it fun, but you know, stats aren't really fun, but truth is truth. We're going to give that to you today. Today's Wall Street Journal in the U.S. News section. So we're looking at the whole nation. The Wall Street Journal says, home price growth stays strong despite mortgage rate rise. Now, of course, we all know the mortgage rates have gone up a lot. And people were hoping, okay, great. Since the mortgage rates rise, that means the cost of housing per month is going to be more expensive, which means less people will be buying, which means there's going to be less competition in the housing market. That makes sense. People also thought that as we stopped doing the moratoriums on foreclosures due to the COVID, once that ended, we'd have a massive amount of foreclosures on the market. And that too would ease the strains on the market for buyers. And that didn't happen. So we got to put so many factors together in this. But according to the Wall Street Journal, home price growth stays strong despite the mortgage rate increase. Home price growth slowed slightly in April as competition for homes remained fierce despite rising mortgage interest rates. The Standard & Poor's CoreLogic Case-Shiller National Home Price Index, which measures the average home prices in major metros throughout the country, rose 20.4% in the year that ended in April, which is down a smidge. So when you hear the headlines that talk about things being down, 20.4% versus 20.6%, that's not really much. These headlines can be so difficult sometimes. Nearly 60% of the homes sold in May were sold above their list price, according to the real estate brokerage Redfin. In another Wall Street Journal, another section of the journal today, they say that the home prices push buyers to rent. That makes sense. You would expect that to be the case. Steeper borrowing rates and higher prices in the housing markets are leading many buyers to give up. Mortgage rates have nearly doubled since January, helping to boost the median mortgage payment of a new loan to $513 a month. Rents for single-family homes have gone up 14% this April from a year ago, the 13th consecutive month in which rents grew at a record pace, according to housing data provided again by CoreLogic. A shortage of available existing homes was a factor contributing to rent increase. That shortage of homes being a contributing factor contributing to the rental increase is also the reason for a lot of the housing increase. It's been such a multi-layered situation that we've got here in Nashville and throughout the country. Mortgage rates have gone up, but less people moving. Less people moving means less homes on the market. Less homes on the market means higher competition for the same homes. Then you put that with an area that so many people are trying to move to, which is the Middle Tennessee area and the South, the Southeast. Then you got a perfect storm of this is hard to figure out. Today's show, we're going to look at specifics to help you determine, is it now time to take your foot off the accelerator, maybe rent for a couple years here, see if prices go down, or is it, although the interest rates are a little bit higher, is it still just going to increase and accelerate prices and your home is going to be so much higher that it's better to go ahead and take that take that plunge now, get the equity from those rising prices, although you have a little bit higher mortgage rates. I can't tell you exactly what's right for you. I can tell you what's going on here in the market, and we're going to use clear, concise information for you to talk about the Nashville, Davidson County, Williamson County, and Wilson County areas. So that's important to you. Stick around. If you don't care, then go look at some of the other videos, because maybe Middle Tennessee isn't right for you. So maybe you need to watch some of those and see if we could be a good spot for you. So through the wonders of technology, thank goodness, I don't need to drive all the way over to MountJuliet to talk to Chris, but we wanted to share with you some real minutia, actually, of information regarding each of our areas of expertise. Chris, thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me. I think it'll be really helpful.
Yeah, thanks for having me today, Susan. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So what we have at our disposal as realtors is the statistics of exactly, we're not just guessing, right? How many houses, and is the market softening or prices going down? We're not guessing. We have perfect information that can help people make good decisions.
Yeah, that's right. And, it's funny when you called me the other day and told me what you told me, and the idea for this video, I just had this discussion with my wife and a renter that was moving out of one of our rentals. And, her first question to me was, when I walked up, was, "Oh, well, the market's crashing. The market's going down." And I said, "Well, not really." So that is, perception. Sometimes that's true, but really the opposite, at least in our market. I know there are some markets that are dropping, but in our market, that's absolutely not true.
Well, and as you say, every single day you're going to see, today is the 2 Wall Street Journal articles that I mentioned. And it's saying, record home prices, buyers can't buy, interest rates going up, renters paying more. It goes one way. Tomorrow, I promise you, we'll find 3 more articles that have a diametrically opposed opinions on it. So
absolutely.
It's hard I understand. It's hard for people to know exactly what to do.
Yeah. And it is hard to, without information, it is hard to take a leap to purchase the largest thing that most people will ever buy. With interest rates going up, we've kind of been spoiled with, 2.5%, 3.5% rates for quite a while, probably artificially low. But when people get used to those numbers, they see a 5.5%, and which 5 years ago, I'd have been ecstatic to have 5.5%, sign me up. But now it's like, 5.5%. I don't know if I'll ever buy a house. Well, that was the number.
Nobody wants to hear when I first started in the business, it was 18.5%. And I remember being terrified that someone who was buying a lot, closing on a lot that day, was going to back out, and they didn't. And I didn't even understand why they didn't. But
at 18%, people still buy and sell, right? So,
somehow
people still had to move. You still take new jobs and you move across country and wherever. So people were still buying and selling, even at 13, 18%.
Well, and that's a good point. You've got to live somewhere. So your choice is, do I pay somebody else rent? And of course, your rent that you're paying them is paying for that house. So you're essentially helping them buy that house.
Yeah. Or interest rate on rent is 100%, the saying, right?
Yeah. And that's something to do. People, why are the rents going up so much? Well, if the prices of homes is going up a whole lot, that means the taxes are going up a whole lot. And if the market will bear it because people need a place to rent, rentals are a business too. And that's what people don't own homes for, for the 2:00 a.m. phone calls to take care of the heat and air.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a business to make money. And a perfect example is this renter that we have moved out yesterday, actually. And, if we keep this house to rent it, we'll probably raise our rent. And she was there 14 months. We'll probably raise our rent $500 to $700 from last year, which is a perfect example of that number. And 3 times what the mortgage is that you get, maybe 2 times now because the rates have gone up a little bit. So double what you can own a home for. So if you can afford the down payment, it's not usually the monthly payment that people have the struggle with. It's saving that money for the down payment, as we know.
Right. Well, and I think as the market does change a little bit, we may well find that we as realtors can help massage people into a deal that works for them, with maybe the seller helping to pay for closing costs or different things that can happen. So, biggest thing is really talk to your realtor, whoever is advising you, as to here's what I've got, here's what I want to try to do, and how can we massage this and make it work. But you brought us to a good point, I think, is why we're here. Now, because of the statistics, you probably in your gut felt like I can probably raise my rents now on this home. Mm-hmm. But because of your gut feelings, then you can go back to these statistics that we're looking at to say, yep, that decision is correct. I can do this. Yeah. So why don't we get into some of the things that we are seeing, and what we want to do is compare like May of last year, 2021, okay, in our respective counties that we do our most work in. Let's compare that to May of 2022 to see exactly what the market is doing, and see if from that we can kind of, come up with a baseline. So one of the first ones we looked at was simply Nashville, Davidson County. And in Davidson County, Nashville is the largest metro. What we saw was May, in comparing the 2 years, 2021 and 2022, a 16% decrease in listings and a 16% decrease in pending sales. Why do you think that might be? Just for the last month, I think the decrease in sales might be that people softened a little bit because of what's happening with the interest rates. But also, if there's less homes.
Yeah, and it did happen very quickly. People who were maybe on the fence, and it is an expensive county to live in as well. Not like Williamson, but it's still, the average home sale price is pretty high in Davidson County as a whole.
Yeah. So our median sales price was $580 in 2022 of May, and that's up 20% over 2021. So I think that was people kind of taking, that was the month when we really did have a lot of increase. I think people taking a little bit, but again, if there's less home sales, but there are less homes to buy, because those are pretty much the same. Inventory of homes for sale over the between the 2 years, we have 50% less, over 50% less for sale in 2022 than 2021. What's that going to do to the market price?
Raise the prices. The competition, and I feel like even with the month's supply, which is down to 1.5 in May, and of course we don't have numbers through the end of June yet, but 1.5 months supply. Not a healthy market, obviously, with supply that low. I do feel like some of the interest rate increases, I don't personally see as many offers on the homes. I think that we're still getting the good offers, maybe not the crazy over the top numbers, but you're still getting at or above ask. And those people who were just squeaking in, being able to afford the house, maybe they're no longer there because of interest rates, push them out.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. If someone was pre-approved for a loan in January, February, March even, I'm going back and we're getting reapproved based on the current rates. And so we may have to move down from a $500,000 house to a $450,000 house to not stretch them too far. So I think those are good points. Yeah. And we're looking at the median sales price of townhomes and condos even was up 30%. Yeah. So condominiums and single family homes both are having those increases in the Nashville, Davidson County area. Yep. You want to look over at MountJuliet?
Yeah. So we'll move over to Wilson County, Lebanon, and MountJuliet, where my office is in MountJuliet. I cover Wilson County, which is probably the I'm not going to say second most desirable, but when people tend to look at Williamson County first and coming to Nashville, then they see the prices and they're like, let me look at it in Wilson County, easy access to downtown and all those things we've talked about in the videos. But MountJuliet and Lebanon, still different markets from each other, even though they're very close to each other. But new listings through May year to date, 851 last year, 678 this year. So down 20%. The pending sales are actually up. So I think a lot of that probably is some new construction. That there are a couple of large communities here in the MountJuliet area that, those don't show up a lot of times on the MLS as new listings. So I think that's some of it. The median sales price 20% increase, and the average sales price up 22% to $563 for MountJuliet. Now, if you look at Wilson County, or I'm sorry, if you look at Lebanon, it's a little bit less expensive. There's a few reasons that we've talked about for that, but the average sales price for Lebanon, $481 again versus $563, so about $80,000 difference cheaper to live in Lebanon versus MountJuliet.
And there's MountJuliet's a big hot, people really love it because it's got a really good school system. And you've had to teach me this because again, every area we have our expertise in each area. And you've taught me there are parts of Lebanon that does still go into the MountJuliet school system.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. The eastern edge of Lebanon address. The other thing too is with the commute, obviously not everybody works from home. It's nice to think everybody can, but everybody can't. So it's still an easier commute. You've got about a 15 to 20 minute shorter commute. And then as you tend to get off the interstate, it can get a little rural up in Lebanon. So that can add, 15, 20 minutes to a downtown commute.
Which I tell you what, a lot of people want. If you want some acreage, and you want some size, you want the potential of a brand new home versus something older within a good similar price points. That's a great spot to look. It's interesting because I am looking at both of these areas and neither one have over a month and a half of supply of inventory.
Yeah. So yeah. MountJuliet 0.9.
That's insanity.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It's funny, again, going back to where our rental is against a large neighborhood, and there had not been anything on the market probably for a few months. I have one house here and there. I looked a couple of weeks ago, all of a sudden there's like 8 or 9. They're all under contract except for one. So people who say, it's the market's crashing again. Well, those houses came on. They still went under contract in a matter of, 1, 2, 5, 8 days, something like that.
I worked on 2 homes last weekend, and neither of them did we have to go much over asking price. Now, they were a little bit, but it wasn't the huge accelerations that we've been having in the past. But each of them had 3 offers on them in the first 48 hours. So it's not as though you can wait it out or hope if it's priced really right. Now, actually, I do want to talk a little bit because we are starting to see some price reduction. So let's talk about why we're seeing that. But
yeah, and just a reminder for people, Susan, when people say, well, there are only 3 offers, well, the seller only needs 1. So you can't think that you can just go in. It's like they don't have that many. Well, they only have 1 house to sell, and they only need 1 good offer.
And you make a good point there too, because people often think that they might counter 3 or 4 and you have another chance. You don't.
No, absolutely.
You don't. They will counter one of them, and maybe you have an offer to go back in and say, okay, let me try to slide it again. Or they're going to accept one. So you really do need to have these kind of numbers in mind and seeing what you're doing to make informed decisions, right?
Yeah. Still your best offer first. You can't expect to be countered.
Right. You're right. Actually, I'm similar. I think you and I both do the same thing. At what number are you okay with saying, I lost it by $2,000. I lost it by whatever the amount you lost it is. At what point are you okay to say, okay, I did the best I could do?
I'm okay with that. Yeah, that $1,000 was my breaking point. So
yeah, I think these statistics help knowing that, because you can feel better, because it's hard to make a full price offer.
It is, especially as these when you look at the average sale prices, up 90,000 and 100,000 for MountJuliet and Lebanon alone, and those are the less expensive community.
Well, and you looked up for me the rental values. Actually, let's talk about that, because you looked up for me the average rents in Wilson County was
$2,350, and that's just rental as a whole. That doesn't include the apartments, but I do know some of the rental apartment prices, and you're looking. And a lot of people don't want to live in apartments, but you're looking at anywhere from $1,800 to $2,200 for a 2-bedroom, relatively newer, but that's all pretty much single family. We don't have a lot of townhomes here in MountJuliet, but Wilson County in general, $2,350, Davidson County, $2,300. And of course that includes some very low end rentals, $800 a month up to $6,000 a month. And then Williamson County, close to where you are, $4,100.
That one blew me away.
Yeah.
That one blew me away. And I guess that's part of the school system, people wanting to be in that location. But, how many, $4,100 a month for a year? My quick math is that's over $50,000 to give away. And without all the benefits of homeownership or the equity of owning something for a while. So that's huge.
I used to tell people, or I have told people recently, when you spend, if you don't make a dime on your house when you sell it, if you paid, and I thought this when I rented for a few years, I spent $20,000 in rent. If I owned that house and sold it the next year, but didn't make a dime, I still saved $20,000 that I didn't pay in rent.
Right. And that's assuming zero increase in
zero
value.
Appreciation. Now I would have paid off a year's worth of principal. Not a lot, obviously, but at least I get my money back.
So let's take a quick look over and let's go south into Williamson County. And we pulled 3 cities. The first, which is closest to Nashville, is Brentwood. And Brentwood is actually the most expensive one in Williamson County too. A big part of the reason for that is there's no more dirt to be building on. So you're not getting newer construction. You're getting people either renovating their homes or, there's just, you've got this money to choose from, and it's a primo area. So there's a 20% decrease in the number of homes on the market in May of 2022 versus 2021. And the median sales price increased by about 20% as well, up to 18.5%.
Which that number really surprised me. When you think of Brentwood, you've really got 2 kind of distinct areas, kind of east and west of 65 coming down, so the price range, but the average price really shocked me at 1.3, almost 1.4 million.
Well, and that's the newer construction really is only over on that east side. Yeah. So I think that newer construction is what so many people are looking for, but that's on the east side of the interstate. Inventory is down. What is it? 50%.
Yeah, 1.7 months supply in Brentwood, and a lot of people know Brentwood. They know the Brentwood name, or they want to go to Franklin, and then they see these. They think they can get, it's $800,000 in Brentwood. There should be plenty. Well, the median price is 1.1 million.
Yeah. Yeah. So, now, again, it holds its appreciation too. I mean, whatever the ceiling will let it do, it does hold it because of that location. But then we move on down a little bit further down into Franklin, which is the historic area that everybody knows and loves. There's only a 4% increase in the number of homes on the market, new listings over the previous year. Median sales price had gone up 27%. It's now at $945,000. So it had gone up about 28% since the previous year. A month and a half of inventory again.
Yeah, very low inventory. And, I think that that change that they had in the county where no more high density neighborhoods, you've got a minimum of 5 acres, which really took out a lot of, homes that could be built.
Right. Because it's all farming community. So what they have done, you're exactly right. And it's recent is unless you're within the city limits of Franklin, if you're out in the county. So all these big, beautiful, glorious farms that families have held for generations that previous to this or prior to this could have been developed into communities are not. So I think that's also going to keep Franklin values really high too, if people want to be within that community. And it's a win-win for some and it's a win-lose for others, but it's the fact.
That is true. I know a lot of people were not happy about it. People who maybe wanted to sell their land to, a larger developer.
It's a hard situation there. So then we can move over to Thompson Station. Thompson Station is even further south than Franklin. So it's almost at the Williamson County, Maury County line. Mm-hmm. Thompson Station is one of the few areas that they've been able to have a huge boom because there is land to be building on. So there's a whole lot of new construction. Listings is down 25% from 2021 to 2022. And, when we're comparing these months over the last year, we got to remember the last year was a record year.
Correct.
So
yeah. And now
2021 was record historically for everybody.
I had not looked at this one. This average sales price shocks me.
Isn't it crazy?
Wow.
It is crazy. 67% increase. Now, again, Thompson Station really didn't have much new construction. That's just that boom in the last 2 years to get inside of the Williamson County line for those good schools. Mm-hmm. And they did have property that could be developed. So you have so much new construction, and new construction is just a lot more expensive than a 60s house on a half acre.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But
yeah, again, 1.4 months supply. So still, there's nowhere that there's a bunch of supply.
Nowhere.
Just around here.
Nowhere. Middle Tennessee. I thought about pulling up Hendersonville, and that may be another time, but over in the Sumner County area. Mm-hmm. So the Nashville FMSA is strong. People still trying to get here. Interest rates have maybe slowed things down or softened a little bit, such that people might be in a little bit different price point than they could have been before. Yeah. But you're not seeing the slowdowns in the numbers of offers. Well, that's not true. Probably less. It's not the 25 offers on a house now. It might be the 3 to 7.
Yeah.
But as you say, you only want to sell your house once.
Yeah. You can only sell. You only got one to sell.
One more thing I know you're seeing in your area too are some price reductions. And what does that tell you?
If you really look at them, a lot of people see the price reductions, but if you look at them, I've seen a lot of them that really were overpriced to start with. It's that speculative market where people say, look, my neighbor sold for, $550. I know the house is only worth $500. Let's put it on at $575 and see what happens. That doesn't work. The first thing I tell my sellers is, look, you've got to price the house fair. Pricing fair, you got to assume that, okay, I get one offer and there's going to be an appraisal. That appraisal is going to determine your price unless somebody's coming in. We have seen the appraisal gap money that covers the difference. That's dropped off a little bit, but some of it's still there. But you have to assume that, okay, if I sell my house to one person that's getting a loan, it's got to appraise, or you may have issues. And so those people, they let the market push it up. The 4, 5, 8, 10 offers, however many there are, that's what's going to push the price up. If you go out way above market, and everybody knows that, it's clear, it's easy to see, those are the people that are having the price reductions.
Well, that, and I think a lot of people have seen my house. I can put it out there and it's going to sell for, no matter what I put it out there, it's going to sell. And so if I can make an absorbent amount of money, sure, I'll sell it. Those houses are having price reductions or coming off of the market, which also skews our numbers somewhat. It is still a beauty pageant and a price war. I don't care what you say. The house has to be market Instagram ready. I mean, that's really what I tell people. If we do the effort to get this house Instagram ready, take out the clutter, maybe repaint all the great, wonderful colors, but that's not what the market wants right now. We know what people are looking for. If you'll take that extra effort, and it may take 2 or 3 weeks to get it ready, it's worth the money you're going to get and those multiple offers.
You're going to get your money back if you spend it.
Clean, fresh, and able to be competed against with the new construction that looks, primo and perfect. Those are where the price reductions are coming in.
Yeah.
So this is not the time to get lazy on that, thinking anything will sell.
Nope. You get it ready, do it right. Just like, and I still advise my clients that 6 months ago, a year ago, when it was still crazy, yeah, it may sell in a day, but it still needs to be ready, because you never know when something falls through. Maybe, it comes back on the market. Well, all those people who walked through, you want to have, their interest back. So it always needs to be ready, and it needs to be done right. That's just the way to do it. So,
well, we all remember a house with a certain nuance, and it might be the one with the cat, or it might be the one that smelled like brownies or something different. We all remember it. And that's, you want your house to be remembered as one of those good things I just mentioned.
Yes, for sure.
That was weird.
Well, Chris, thank you. I think people kind of wonder, do we just kind of pull out of thin air numbers, and do we just kind of pull out of thin air, why do we think what's happening is happening? And it's not because we're just realtors. We want to sell you a house. This is the reality of it.
Yeah.
If in Thompson Station, the prices went up 70% last year, and you decide I'm just going to wait it out. And even if it just goes up 10% next year, if you pay the rent, that is about $2,500, you've just lost all that value. So,
yeah. You lost the value. You're giving somebody else money and not paying your mortgage. So you're giving away money and not paying down. So the delta just gets even larger.
It does. Got to live somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this, and I appreciate your expertise always in Wilson County. And if anybody has any questions for me or for Chris, please feel free to reach out to us. Put something in the comments here below. If you want to know what's going on in Hendersonville, or name a couple of your other Wilson County towns.
Yeah, Gallatin, Watertown, MountJuliet, Lebanon, Hermitage. We've got, Old Hickory all the way into Nashville. So between the two of us, we cover. And then, Brian, I know, is up in Hendersonville. So we can pretty much cover the entire Middle Tennessee area.
We can statistic you to death if you want us to.
Yeah, I think most people don't love that. But hopefully we've given some good information, and, people can see. And, like you said, if they need anything, just give us a call. And, I love talking to people about it.
Perfect.
Happy to do it.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it, Chris.
I hope that was helpful. It's complicated. There's a lot that goes into it. If you're still considering the Middle Tennessee area or buying anywhere, let me help you. Please do what so many people are doing. Call, text, email me, say, we need to have a conversation. I'm thinking about Middle Tennessee. Help me find the right spots. I'm thinking about Middle Tennessee. Let's talk a little bit more about my situation. And let me tell you what I'm looking for. You tell me if it's even possible in Middle Tennessee, Nashville area. I'm Susan Thetford with Parks Properties, here to help you determine whether Middle Tennessee is your next best new location for you and your family. Please go ahead, subscribe to this show. If you've gotten this far, it must be getting some kind of value. Go ahead and subscribe to the show. Next week and every week, we put out a new video to share more info about Nashville with you. So, hope to see you then.